Hello and welcome to the Jake Mix Marketing Podcast. Today I am in Lehigh, Utah at the headquarters of Motivosity, which is an employee engagement, employee recognition platform. Is that kind of what we're looking at?
You nailed it, Jake. Motivosity is all about making people happier at work.
Awesome.
And we do that through peer-to-peer recognition and it's a great way to build culture. So nailed it.
Okay, well, awesome. Just wanted to make sure I got that. I've actually been here before. If any of you are avid listeners, you'll know that my first episode was with the previous CMO at Motivosity, Mr. Joe Staples.
It was the first episode?
It was the first episode ever. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So This is like, I feel like this is a walk down memory lane here.
I feel like I'm going to spend most of my career following in Joe Staples' footsteps and trying to fill his shoes. And so Joe's a mentor and a friend of mine. I worked under him for a while. So good. I'm glad to know that once again, I'm at least on a path Joe was on. That's good news.
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been an interview that I've wanted to do. We have Logan Mallory. I haven't even introduced you yet. Usually I go through this thing, but so he's the vice president of marketing at Motivosity, and he's been here for a little more than a year, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And, Logan is one of those guys that's very active on LinkedIn. I have seen so many of your posts. They're actually getting like a lot of attention right now. Is that right? I've been seeing you in like the LinkedIn news and that kind of thing.
Yeah, LinkedIn's been really good to me. I spend a lot of time there. I think it benefits both me and my employer, and so I spend a lot of time there, and it's been great for my career. So that's awesome. I spend a good amount of my virtual day on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Well, and I've definitely tried to follow you a little bit, post a lot more often, and it's been good to me as well. So yeah, I appreciate that. And hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that.
Sure, happy to.
During this interview. I have a lot to ask you, and it's just such a thrill to finally make this happen. I know we've kind of gone back and forth. Our schedule just haven't aligned. And so this is a really good opportunity. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. You're giving me more credit than I deserve, Jake, but I'm glad to be with you.
Well, hey, what's funny is so Motivosity is used at my work. And I went to a golf tournament the other day, and we're like, we saw the Motivosity. No, who is it? It was the Big Leap tent.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, yeah, we just started using Motivosity, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm good friends with Logan Mallory over there. Like your name, they just like casually name drop you. And so when people casually name drop you, it's big. So
well, I don't know about that. I'll take it. Thank you.
So anyway, yeah, pleasure to be here. But let's first go in, talk a little bit about your upbringing. I mean, from what I see on your LinkedIn resume, from what I'm seeing in like your past experience, you've had a lot of experience in marketing. Has it always been that way? Have you kind of just had a natural act for marketing? When did you first learn about marketing and wanted to go that route?
I was thinking about our podcast today as I was driving in and kind of thinking about my background. And I remember in the 10th grade telling Mike Messmore, the English teacher at Brighton High School in Michigan, he said, what do you want to do? And I said, Mike, I want to be the president of the United States. And I don't know why I said that. I don't know, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So no, marketing was not always the path. In fact, growing up, most of the time people, friends or family or people who had influence over me would say, Logan, you'd be great at sales. And so I spent most of my late teenage years and the early part of my college career thinking that I would go into sales. And I did. I actually put myself through school selling advertising for a magazine. I interviewed for sales roles and accepted a sales role with a company in Texas. And when people said, Logan, you'd be really good at sales, what they really meant was, hey, Logan, you're kind of nice and you can sort of talk to people, right? And those aren't the same thing.
Right.
And so frankly, I spent about the first 4 years of my career mostly in sales and completely miserable. Like losing my eyesight from stress and hated Sunday nights. And then one day I was working for a company in Seattle, and they said, Logan, we need a new email service provider. Or actually they needed one. It wasn't a new one. They needed one. And so they said, will you take on this job? Just go help us find a good email tool to use. And that was my very first exposure to digital marketing. And that's when I knew that's where my career was supposed to go. I realized it was a way that I could contribute to a business and drive revenue and have responsibility, but without the monthly sales quota and the pressure of the hard close,
right?
Which was not who I am. And so once I got that exposure, I knew exactly what I needed to do with my career, and haven't looked back.
That's amazing. Has an experience in sales and going that route, has that helped within your marketing career, or what kind of pieces have transitioned?
It is literally my competitive advantage. So one of the things that's made me a better marketer is I know how sales reps think. And I remember being the sales rep, getting the lead in the morning and thinking, man, this lead source is the worst.
Yep.
Or, oh, great, I just got a lead from here. This is going to be great, right? Yeah. And so what it's done for me is a few things. First of all, it's made me very empathetic to what it's like to have a quota. And that makes me a better marketing counterpart. And two, it's allowed me to think more strategically about marketing. So typically I will align at the hip around pipeline created or revenue driven. Like if sales doesn't win, then I don't win. And that attitude, I think, if you'll excuse a little bit of arrogance, that attitude makes the difference for me when I'm interviewing for marketing roles.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that as I've talked to different people, it seems like the balance between sales and marketing is, or can be, a big problem within a company, right? When the sales doesn't believe the marketing's on their side and the marketing side doesn't believe the sales is on their side. So that's amazing that you've been able to kind of cross that path.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most common problems within an organization. Sales doesn't hit their target, they blame marketing. Marketing blames sales, right? Yep. And so it goes back and forth, and it's like this quarterly argument. Now, I won't say that that's completely solved, but I do think that when marketing feels responsible for revenue with sales, then marketing's already blaming themselves a little bit before anyone else can turn and look at them.
Right.
So again, I think we are adversarial in those relationships as a general business statement, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be.
Right. Geez, I love that. Well, and you've had a ton of different marketing positions and have been able to gain experience, I'm sure, in a lot of different areas. So why don't you run me a little bit through kind of going from that sales to marketing job? Sounds like you did a little bit of email marketing. Uh-huh. How did it play out from there?
So I knew that I needed to transition, and ended up with a company. Actually, I mentioned that the magazine sales that I did in college. While I was away in Texas and Seattle, that company that I worked for was acquired by a big publishing organization.
That's awesome.
And it ends up that the big publishing organization needed a digital marketing manager, as I kind of had this realization. So through like a strong network and like sheer force of will, I literally like sent in my resume and I said, I will be at your door to interview for this job on this day. So I ended up working for a company called Deseret Book and managed their website. It was about a $10 million e-commerce website. And was very focused on B2C, the 4 Ps of marketing. I was responsible for the product and the price and the promotion, and got some really great fundamentals for marketing there. I'll give you the quick story, and then if you want to dive in more, we can dive in more. Eventually, a company called Workfront, which was recently bought by Adobe for $1.5 billion, approached me. And I wasn't sure I wanted to leave the comfort of my role at Deseret Book, but the opportunity to kind of be pulled into tech marketing and the SaaS tech scene was too good to say no to. I later went to a company called Jive, which was acquired by LogMeIn. So that led to some broad public company exposure that I knew I needed, and then have been here at Motivosity for about a year. So the theme with each of those transitions, and Jake, you lead the way, like you tell me what you want to talk about, but each of those transitions has given me exposure to a new part of marketing that I wasn't experiencing before. It's added an extra puzzle piece to my giant puzzle and made me a better overall marketer. So I've tried to be intentional about why I'm taking the roles I'm taking and which puzzle piece it adds.
Well, that's awesome. And you were kind of talking about Deseret Book, how you transitioned was it director of digital marketing or director of marketing?
At Deseret Book, I was a digital marketing manager. And then I moved to Workfront as a senior digital marketing manager, I think. It's been a while. I'm getting old.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard to remember, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious how because obviously you had some experience in sales, and sounds like at the tail end of the other company with some email marketing, that kind of thing. like, what were some of the strategies you used? Were you under someone that taught you a lot about marketing? Did you have to throw yourself into the marketing scene? Like, how was that learning process? How did you develop those skills?
A couple of things. One, I had a few great mentors. John Coford and Ryan Miller were my direct and then secondary boss at Deseret Book.
Okay.
And they are very, very great coaches. And so I think that being under their wing helped me a lot. The other thing that was beneficial at that part of my career was taking a quantitative approach. Not to speak ill of anyone or anything over there. It was this is how we've done it, or this is what's been successful in the past, or this is, kind of the guidelines we're going to work within. And I think one of the things I did was brought a lot of data. I got really deep into Google Analytics, and I could run tests on email and on the website that could happen before the retail stores. They had, I can't remember how many brick and mortar stores there were, but I would show up in meetings and use the digital results to educate the brick and mortar groups. And that gave me this like perspective that they hadn't really been leveraging before, and immediately proved some value and some worth. And so I think between John and Ryan, I think between my like realizing how valuable that quantitative insight was, and rinsing and repeating because I saw the value of it. And then the third thing was I was hungry. I wanted to progress. I had found what I loved. And when you love what you do, it's really easy to get engrossed in it and to just like go deep.
That's awesome, man. Super cool to hear that. Cause I feel like, I forget to ask that process because oftentimes all we hear is you jump from this position to this position, this position. And it's really cool to see how you kind of dive deep, you dove deep, if you will, and really got in there and were hungry and super cool. And mentors. I think that's, what was the impact of mentors in your life and in your career?
Man, I've been so dang lucky. Like, it feels like everywhere I've gone from middle school forward, there's for, different periods of lives, it's been different people. Sometimes it was spiritual, sometimes it was school, sometimes it was work, sometimes it's been, outside of any of those. I've just been really lucky to always be surrounded by typically really great men, who have guided me and taken an interest in me when they didn't need to. I actually just went to lunch with my counterpart today, and he said, "Hey, what's your like mentorship like right now?" And I said, "What's interesting is I feel like I'm kind of shifting, and I'm now at a spot where I'm mentoring more than being mentored." And he said, "You know what? Like, that's great. That's good. You should provide that. But don't forget that you still need to fill your bucket, and you need to be full." And so anyway, I've had these really great mentors. I think those two gentlemen took a little bit of a shot at me, a shot. Like they gave me a shot. They gave me a shot. I don't know that I had the credentials that deserved that job. I came in asking for a lower salary because I wanted the experience and the role more than I wanted money. And so between all of that, they were willing to give me a shot, and I didn't let them down. So that's I think awesome. They saw a little bit of promise and a little bit of a diamond in the rough, and it's worked out great, hopefully for all of us.
It's amazing. And how long were you in that Deseret Book position?
I was there just shy of 4 years, I believe. Yeah, just shy of 4 years.
Okay. Have you had like an average amount of time you've been in a position? Like, I know that sometimes you can't like really sink your feet in until a certain amount. Yeah,
on average, I'm probably about 2.5 years. So in college, 3 years, here's how it went. 3 years, 3 years, 1 year, 4 years, 2 years, 3.5 years.
Okay.
1+ at Motivosity. So awesome. I'm probably 2.5 year average.
Okay, cool. Have you been able to, like, is it just enough to stay at a role for a year? Do you feel like you could have done more at those roles for a year? What's your thoughts there?
One of the things that I've learned is that if you're in the wrong job, you can't get out fast enough. Yeah. So looking back on a couple of those, if I would have known what I know now, I would have left before orientation was done.
Wow.
That was early in my career. I didn't really know what the red flags were. I thought I had to muscle through and thought I had to like prove that I hadn't made the wrong choice or prove that I could do it. And I don't know if it's like that I'm a little more established or that I'm more confident or I have enough money to like not worry about my next paycheck. But like in those early days when those were all problems, I just felt like I had to tough it out, and I was wrong.
That's wow. Well, it's really good to hear from a perspective where you've gone through a lot and you're in a comfortable position. Because I think kids and people like me who have just graduated, we're a bit in that mindset where we feel like we have to stick it out. So
yeah, I think if you so let me give the counter advice to that.
Okay.
If you find that 3 or 4 times in a row, then you ought to look in the mirror and do some analysis.
Great point.
But once every couple gigs, like sometimes you make mistakes, right? Or you think one thing and it's not the reality. So what I'm not giving you permission to do is change jobs after 30 days 5 times.
Right.
If you've realized you're in a bad spot and you stuck at your last place for a while, get out and go find something great.
Yeah.
There's 2, especially right now, this advice might only be good for 2021. The economy is too dang good to not go get something that you like.
So true. Well, especially in Utah.
In Utah.
And I think most of most of the listeners are from Utah. So
yep.
Great opportunities here. Well, let's talk about a little bit of your role at Motivosity, VP marketing for a little over a year.
Yeah.
What were some of the things you did in the first 6 to 12 months to ensure you were going to have success?
Yeah. I think 3 things, if I were to kind of summarize it in 3 things. The first one is a long-term and a short-term plan. We needed demand gen quickly, and that was my primary focus. And so I spent a lot of my energies in a short-term plan, but I also knew that there was long-term efforts that needed to be done. And so kind of being able to switch even within the same day or within the same hour and say, we're going to do this now because it benefits us this month. And then say, we're going to invest this because it'll benefit us next year. So keeping a short-term and a long-term play. The second thing that I did, if anything has made the marketing team at Motivosity successful, it is the team members that we've brought on. When I started, there was 1 contracted employee on the marketing team. Now there are 8 of us, including myself. And it is an amazing team. The best energy, so willing to help. People aren't territorial. Like, this crew is unbelievable. It's one of the most fun groups I've ever worked with. And then the third thing is I brought energy to the organization. And what that is not is a comment about the organization. Motivosity is already an energetic place with people who love their life and love what they're doing. I would like to think that I came in with excitement and energy and a positive attitude and added to or expanded the foundation of energy that already existed. And so that was more of a cultural ad than a marketing ad.
Yeah, well, it sounds like those are 3 great principles. Did you come into the organization planning to do some of those things? Did you have the mindset to go in? And did you learn that from previous positions, or did it kind of just come in, you saw the need and you took the action?
I don't know if I should admit this on a podcast, but that would be giving me way too much credit. I think the one that if I knew that I was going to do anything, it's the energy, right? I think I enter, and again, excuse me for talking about myself in a positive light, but I think I enter a room with a smile and excitement and a positive attitude. And I've learned since I was in 2nd grade moving to a new elementary school that works, right? So that's a life lesson that I apply everywhere I go. I knew that the demand gen portion and the driving leads quickly would be beneficial because that's my core skill set, right? And so I knew that Motivosity would value that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been the right person for the job. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't have any clue what I'm doing, but I think you might have some ideas, and then you show up in an organization and you get the dynamics and you get to look at the real numbers and you get to actually understand the sales process, and whatever you think was the right play probably isn't the right play. So I think there's an element of confidence and having a deep well to draw from, but also an element of, I'm tenacious enough. I'm going to figure this out.
Right. Yeah. And I would imagine that energy can contribute to any organization, right? If you have the willingness to learn and adapt.
Yep.
That's cool.
And I think that's the beauty of the team, the marketing team that we've grown here is it's a group of people that feel that way and are willing to figure things out. And so it's one thing when there's one marketer that feels that way. When there are 8 of you that are all willing to figure it out and bring energy, it is like this. I don't know. It's just magic. It's magic.
That's awesome. Well, and I want to talk a little bit because you're primarily a B2B organization, right?
Yeah.
So what's kind of your where are you mainly getting leads from? Is it social? Is it, tell me a little bit about that.
So think about those long-term, those short-term and the long-term plans, right?
Yep.
So short-term, I mean, when you're in a B2B organization, there is a group of people that wants to buy from you or that is in the market right now. Like right today, they are trying to find a solution. So a couple places that you'll find those buyers, those bottom of the funnel buyers, you're going to find them on the review sites. So Capterra, G2 Crowd, Software Advice, right? Places where people are going to find specific solutions. You'll also find it in AdWords, right? If you're using specific AdWords on Google or Bing, like there are certain indications that people are looking for something at the bottom of the funnel. And so you'd better be in both of those places. And then also, if you're not using paid social, right? If you're not using LinkedIn and Facebook to capture people's attention, those are I won't say they're bottom of the funnel leads. They're people who are at least intrigued enough to get in the market, right?
Right.
And so that can drive some quick wins for you if you're targeting things right. So that's kind of the short-term path. And that's where any good B2B marketer shows up. You audit that, you make sure you're spending in the right place, you're getting all of those low funnel leads, and that gives your sales rep something to do this month. The long-term plan, what's your event strategy? Where are you going to be, right? Where are you going to be present? Is your brand saying the right things to the right people? Is your content compelling or boring? And I would argue most content these days is boring, right? It's either boring or too thin to actually provide any insights. And your SEO strategy, and clearly your SEO, if your SEO strategy and your content strategy aren't aligned, then you're in trouble anyway. So, you got to think short term and you got to think long term. And that's what I've got to say about that. That wasn't a very great transition, Jay.
I loved it, to be honest. Well, that's cool. And you said the most content is, frankly, a little boring. And I would probably agree, and very thin, not enough value. How are you creating content that is valuable? Do you have any tips there?
That's one of the reasons that I chose to come to Motivosity. I've worked for very wonderful companies that are respectable, companies that do the right thing, companies that care about their customers. And I will say this on a podcast, even though it might hurt some feelings, like they're not necessarily exciting products. Like project management isn't exciting and business phone systems aren't totally thrilling, right?
Right.
And so for me, Motivosity was this opportunity to be obsessed with the product that I was marketing. I was a user of Motivosity before I worked here. Joe Staples is a mentor and friend being here. I had a lot of exposure that way. Clearly respected Scott Johnson, who's the CEO and founder and also founded Workfront. And so for me, I had always had these like interactions with Motivosity, and coming here and loving the product makes content so much easier, right? Like part of the reason my LinkedIn has gotten better over the last year is the intersection of what Motivosity is all about and my personal brand. And so now, can we all work for a place that we love their product for an entire 50-year career? Probably not. But if you're not mildly passionate about the product, it makes it almost impossible to have your content be great. So I think as marketers, we could do a better job and be more judicious in picking our roles so that we can be excited about it. I've been guilty of saying, it doesn't really matter what product I market, I can market it. And that's true. I can market it. Whatever it is, I'll market it.
Yeah.
But when you're passionate about it, it unlocks some potential and is really cool to watch that happen.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, when I saw that you moved to LinkedIn, because I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite a while, I felt like you and the brand matched very well, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
I feel
nice
like
of you, I think.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Yeah, let me preface that. But I feel like Motivosity has a lot of energy to it. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys have started to build quite the community. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing. It's a lot of work. Like LinkedIn doesn't necessarily favor business accounts. And so I look at groups like Gong. Gong's done an amazing job. Log Me In, where I worked, has a massive following. And I look at those companies with envy. We've grown a lot. Like we've grown significantly in the year since I've been here. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do.
Sure.
And the good news is I don't have to have followers on LinkedIn for our social presence to be successful. So the other day I was scrolling LinkedIn and there was a woman who had made a post about something and she was wearing a Thanks Matters shirt, which is Motivosity's tagline, right? Yeah. Thanks Matters. And she wasn't talking about Thanks Matters. She wasn't talking about Motivosity. She just happened to be she just happened to be wearing it. And the other day, my brother-in-law who lives in Georgia, he sent me this text message with a picture and he goes, "Hey, just in case you hadn't seen this," and I don't know if I can find it and we're on a podcast anyway, but it was a picture of, and I'm sorry for not remembering. It was, I'm going to get there. This is a bad podcast. It was Fisi Satake. And so he's the wide receiver coach. And I hope I pronounce his name right. I'm assuming that's Kalani's relative.
I would imagine.
He's the wide receiver coach at BYU. And he's literally sporting his Thanks Matters shirt on this show on BYU TV called Deep Blue. And that wasn't planned. That wasn't scripted. Like, people like Motivosity. And so even if we're not growing on our followers as much as we could, or we're not the biggest one out there, we're growing in some really great social ways.
Oh yeah. Well, I would think that's a huge win for you guys to see that kind of content. I feel like I'd be very proud of the efforts when I could see that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, and yeah, it sounds like you have just done a lot of good things here. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, it's been very, very fulfilling. And I came into Motivosity with the expectation that it would be a career defining opportunity, and I'm going to work hard. And I know the rest of the Motivosity team is going to work hard to make that true for all of us. So it's a good place to be. We do good things for our customers. And so it makes our work enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of Motivosity. I've been using it for about, it's been about 2 months. Yeah. And it's been fun.
Well, we're glad doTERRA joined and is part of the family.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about your overall career. Have there been any marketing principles that have translated or have really stayed true, been evergreen throughout your entire career?
I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but one of the things that has been helpful for me as a marketer since day one is to always have a new idea in my back pocket. I think we get not complacent, but we just kind of run the same motions over and over and over. We need to update our social media. We need to send out an email for this. Yep. Let's update the website, right? And I would suggest that if you want to be an amazing marketer, that you have something new that you can pull out, because at some point you're going to have a quarter where sales isn't going to hit their number, or you're going to have an executive come to you and say, "We need a new idea. This doesn't feel fresh. What should we do?" And if you kind of look around the room, that doesn't feel good, right? Like if you're just silent, that doesn't feel good for anybody.
Right.
But you can build confidence in both from executives and in yourself. If you say, "I was reading this the other day and I think this would be really cool to try." And maybe it's not the perfect idea, but it's an idea, and one idea spurs another. So I don't have a recent example, which I guess is kind of hypocritical. That's not true. I do have one. I'm just not going to share it on a podcast. It's too good. We were in an executive meeting the other day, and it was an executive offsite. We were doing some planning for 2022. And I said, "I want to do this because it's part of my marketing bucket list and I think it would be awesome." And everyone kind of looked at me like I was crazy, which is probably accurate. But they all looked at me for a second and I was like, wait, and another idea came from that idea. Wow. And so it ended up being, I won't say one of the highest priorities, but I will say one of the highest energy driving ideas. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So
all right.
I'll expose that idea. If you want to have me back in November or so of next year, I'll tell you that idea.
All right. We love it.
But I keep an idea folder in my email. So you know all those annoying emails you get from vendors like, hey, Logan, try this, or hey, Jake, come, let us do a demo.
Right.
I get rid of a lot of those. But every once in a while, maybe 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20, I'll put that email in my idea folder in my inbox. And then that way, when I'm sitting in that meeting or when I realize there's going to be a revenue deficit or something, I go back through that email folder and say, this might be worth trying, right? And so I've got a repertoire of things to pull from in my back pocket.
That's so smart. Well, and I think we all know the feeling of those meetings where, we're fishing for ideas and no one comes up with anything and it's just awkward.
Exactly.
I feel like it's a great opportunity to set yourself apart.
It is a great opportunity to set yourself apart. And all it takes is a little bit of intentionality before, because you never know when that meeting's coming.
Oh yeah.
Right. And all you have to do is be intentional a couple times a quarter before that and say, I'm going to go spend 30 minutes and look for new ideas. I'm going to spend 30 minutes and watch what our competitors are doing. I'm going to take 30 minutes and read this content so that I can come up with something, right? You do that 3 or 4 times in a quarter and you'll have a couple ideas in your back pocket.
Yeah, that's so smart. And geez, how often do we just go through our job, we do the work, but we're not continuing to educate ourselves and learn. And that's such a great point. 30 minutes a day and we can get some great ideas for the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome. Okay, let's talk. I want to transition a little bit. Sounds like we've gotten some great content here. But I want to transition to a little bit of your LinkedIn presence.
Sure.
Because like you said, it has been a great thing for your career. So would you recommend everyone is on LinkedIn? Would you recommend everyone posts on LinkedIn? What are your thoughts about LinkedIn?
Clayton Christensen says, and I don't know when he said it originally, but in the book, How Will You Measure Your Life? He's talking about networking. And he says, if you start networking when you need a job, it's like planting a sapling when you need shade, right?
Yeah.
You're too late.
Yeah.
So for me, LinkedIn is not about today. LinkedIn is about the future, right? I have this, again, arrogant goal to never apply for a job again. I don't want to apply for jobs.
It's an amazing goal.
I would like people to show up and ask me to come work for them, right? And that might not always be the case. I'm sure something will happen, and at some point I'll have to go through that rigmarole. But LinkedIn gives me the hope that I could avoid as much of that painful process as possible.
Yeah.
So should everyone be on LinkedIn? Yeah. I personally think if you're not a doctor or a dentist or don't care about jobs, sure, don't be on LinkedIn. But otherwise, yeah, you should be there. And I'm not saying you have to be as active as I am, but I think it's a really beneficial place. Now, the caveat that I would add to that is Microsoft bought LinkedIn for something like $26 billion. And I don't know how long it's been. It's probably been 7 or 8 years. So I don't think LinkedIn is going to disappear into the night with an investment like that. Someday, LinkedIn will be replaced or outdated, right? Someday we're all going to die and the next generation is going to be linked what? So what I would warn and what I'm trying to figure out, I don't have the answer yet, but at some point LinkedIn will age out, right?
Yeah.
And I have to figure out how to be ready for that. So right now all my eggs are in one basket. And I think if you wanted to upgrade on what I do, you would do that by not having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Well, I've already started to see the engagements go down. I mean, if you think about the last 2 or 3 years, sounds like it's a great platform for organic, but you can kind of see maybe some attention going to some different places.
Yeah. And I think LinkedIn is aware of that and they're trying to figure out how to balance that out.
Right.
Polls is not the answer, right? Polls are everywhere.
Yep.
And they're encouraging those, but that's not the answer. So yeah, there's risk there, but it is a wonderful platform. I have nothing but gratitude for LinkedIn. Every element of my career is better because of it.
Nice. What do you suggest if you were to do one action on LinkedIn every day? Would that be to post? Would that be to comment? What is the game plan if someone wants to start?
Let me not give you an action, but let me give you a philosophical approach.
Love it.
I would go to LinkedIn with a generous presence, right? Don't worry about what's in it for you.
Yep.
If you don't know Nick and Levi from We Are Mind, previously of VidArmy, and they're in different places, all those guys think about is helping other people and caring for other people. And that has helped their businesses tenfold easily, right?
Yep.
And so for me, it's not about, hey, I want this out of LinkedIn, though I'll admit like a like and a share feels great to me. And of course I love that and have my dopamine hits, right? But a lot of what I try to do on LinkedIn is spread job openings, right?
Yep.
Or comment and share so that people's job openings get pushed out. I try to bring a lot of hope to people. I think people are just sad and depressed and lonely and scared and all these negative things. And if you can go be generous to those people, it will go a long way. That doesn't have direct get you a job. It doesn't have direct make more money. Eventually it will work out.
Love it. Well, and I love your posts. I love your pickleball networking posts.
Oh yeah, that's Jared Olson's baby that he's left and gone on to Job Nimbus, but Motivosity's keeping it alive, and it's a good place to be and a nice chance to help people that are trying to network and trying to find openings. Yeah,
that's been awesome. I'll have to come sometime. That seems like
come
a lot
on
of fun.
Down.
Yeah.
Come on
do you
down.
still do that on a weekly basis?
It's always been every other week. By the time this podcast is live, we'll be done for 2020. But once things warm up, for 2021. But once things warm up in the spring, we'll be out on the courts again.
Okay, well, good to know. That's awesome. Great insights on LinkedIn. I'm starting to see more and more people on there posting every day, and so it's good. I love that advice, coming with a generous presence.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I could do a little bit more too.
One other thing, Jake, if you don't mind, I think that if you come to LinkedIn and talk about the same thing every day and try to make it all about work, it gets boring and repetitive.
Right.
And so when people say, hey, how do you come up with your content strategy? I'll typically think in three buckets. I'll typically think like marketing, right? That's part of my world. And then I'll think about Motivosity and employee engagement. And then my third bucket is like my personal brand, which is uplift others, help others, and kind of this like, I don't know, like kindness thought leader or something. And so I have different lanes to pull from each day. And I hope what that does, whether it translates or not, it keeps my content from getting boring. Yeah. I'm not talking about A/B tests every day for 365 days. Like that doesn't build an audience all the time. So for me, I try to pick a few different lanes, and that gives me new content wells to pull from.
Geez, yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I feel like content is definitely something people are always asking about. How do I create more ideas? How do I create? Yeah. So love it. Well, let's go a little bit more into, we've been talking a lot about strategy.
Yeah.
And you right now are an adjunct professor at BYU, teaching some marketing strategy. So like, what are some of the core principles that you're teaching in that class? What advice would you give there?
Yeah, it's been a great class. And actually, so I've taught a marketing class, and this one's a general strategy. This is to business students in all different majors, typically at the end of their collegiate career. I think one of the most important things that I teach in that class is the concept of an intentional, a deliberate strategy and an emergent strategy. So the deliberate strategy is what you set out to accomplish as your end result. It's kind of your long-term goal that you're working towards. It's right in front of you. You know what it is. You can envision it. The emergent strategy are the opportunities that pop up along the way, right? That might take you away from your deliberate strategy. They might get you there faster or in a different method. But emergent strategies are a little bit more of a risk, right? And I think that concept, if you keep that concept on your radar and realize that emergent strategies exist and like have that terminology, then you think about them differently. So what's my deliberate strategy? My deliberate strategy is to provide for my family, to make enough money that I can have flexibility, and to be a leader within marketing, and that's my deliberate strategy, right? My emergent strategy was, let me tell you, I'll tell a story super fast. I was sitting at Workfront, which was a job I loved. It was great people. I got a call from HubSpot, which is a marketer's dream, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm on the phone with the HubSpot recruiter, and we're talking. It's a great call. Like I practically packed my bags to go to Boston, like one of those where you're almost texting your wife, like we're moving. So then the recruiter says, hey, Logan, tell me about the budget that you're managing. Tell me about the program spend that you're managing. And I was like, I manage a couple $100,000. It's mostly on licenses and tools. And I could hear the recruiter get bored with me and basically hang up the phone. So that's when I realized that I needed a role where I was managing substantial budgets. And that became my emergent opportunity, right? It was like, how am I going to create that emergent opportunity? So that's thinking about it in a different way, because maybe really what that is saying my deliberate strategy changed. But when the opportunity at Jive presented itself and they needed someone to manage a $1 million budget, it was a no-brainer because I knew that was how I got to my deliberate strategy, through an emergent opportunity. So anyway, that's a long story, but I think that's one of the most important things. Be intentional, have a plan, and then be smart enough to follow the right things that pop up and provide opportunities along the way.
Wow. I think, yeah. So this is more of like, I guess this could apply to everything, right? Like could apply to everything in business.
It's absolutely a business corporate strategy applied to a personal career, which actually really matters, because a lot of the students I'm talking to, and perhaps some of your audience, you're not the CEO yet, and you're not making those decisions right now, but you are the CEO of your career, right?
Yep.
And you are making those decisions today. And so learning that in your personal life and in your own career gives you like the sandbox experience to apply it later on when you are the leader of the organization.
Yeah. My gosh. Well, it just prepares you so well for those kind of roles.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Would you, like, looking back on your career, did you ever think that you'd be in this position now? Like was there ever like worry or doubt at the beginning of your career thinking, would it all work out on your end?
Yeah. First of all, you're overselling where I am right now. Like I live a normal life, right? I live in a nice 2,700 square foot house on a third of an acre in South Jordan, Utah, which actually is a big acreage for Utah, but not a big house, right? I drive a 2012 Nissan Murano. So
I love it.
So I don't want to
love it.
I don't want to act like where I am is like I'm not retired. I couldn't quit my job today. Like I still have a lot to do. Am I comfortable in my career? Do I know where I'm going? Do I feel confident that if Motivosity got tired of me today, or if I disagreed with something here, that I could find a job in the next couple of weeks? Absolutely. And so that part is aspirational, like the confidence in my career. So I remember being in Texas, working for a company that I hated, was really disappointed with my choice. And I had no clue where I was going to go or what I was going to do. And it was a period of, at best, desperation. Just no clue who I was. And I remember thinking, I have no skills that will ever be wanted by an employer. I don't want to work. I remember like it was desperate. And I made a post on LinkedIn the other day, and it didn't happen while I was in Texas. It probably took another 18 months. It just takes anything to change your situation. It takes one person to give you some advice. It takes one like burst of courage. It takes one article that opens up your eyes. It takes one mentor that gives you a shot. It takes one pat on the back from a street, like it just takes one thing that could change your whole life. And so I'm very sorry for people who are in that situation where they feel like, I don't know what I'm doing or how I'm going to make it or feed my kids for 40 years. But I know what that's like. And just hold on. It'll be okay. Work hard, make friends, be kind, be generous. It will be okay.
That's about the best advice that we could end on ever. I love it. And great advice for, people who go and especially earlier in their career, they're so scared. And it's like, I just love that. There's so much opportunity out there, and anything could happen. So
yeah, let those feelings sit with you, but don't accept them.
Love it. Well, good. Logan, if people wanted to learn more about you or Motivosity, where should they go?
If you want to learn more about Motivosity, we're at motivosity.com, and it's a wonderful product. If you're trying to build your culture, If you're trying to retain your team members, if you're trying to help your managers be better leaders, then Motivosity has some amazing solutions for you. And again, as a user, it was awesome to have. As a former user, it was awesome to have as an employee. If people want to reach out to me, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. If you either Google or search in LinkedIn for Logan Mallory, Mallory, I'm pretty easy to find. I think I show up pretty high in the Logan Mallory search algorithm. Okay. So please reach out. And if I can be a resource, I'd be thrilled to.
Awesome. Hey, well, we thank you so much for your time today. Honestly, this has been so amazing. Gotten just a ton of little tidbits that I think people can walk away with and apply to their career. So appreciate your time.
I hope it's helpful. I'm cheering for everybody out there. Thanks, Jake.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.